All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for jumping on here. Tonight we have Nano coming on. So thank you, Nano, for doing that. Nano has been in sales for some time, been through a lot of stuff, and he's actually won our competition for the whole month of October. So that's really cool. He obviously has some great experience in sales and marketing. And so we're going to let Nano come on and talk a little bit about that, but also make sure that if you have questions that may help you with your sales, he's willing to answer those questions as well. So just jot things down as we go through this tonight, and you can open your mic if you're comfortable to do that, or you can just type it in the chat if you want to do that as well. And I'm sure we'll get some good questions answered by the end of the time here. So with that, Nano, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, fantastic. I do appreciate that, Matt. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. What I'll do is just give a little background on myself, and then I would say some of the intentions, a little bit of my intention here as the start of the call. And I also like to have you set an intention for yourself as far as where you'd like to get it accomplished, on this webinar here, as you should make it more real to you versus just being, I don't want this a thing that I'm pouring information and it just being a de facto. My goal here on this would be for you to actually be able to get information, be able to apply it, and have some significant change throughout your career, right? Or if you do this part-time, or if you do this just to produce some extra income, or whatever it is, right? So it's like basically kind of goes back with the purpose. So as Matt was saying, again, my name is Neno Aquino. I've actually been in sales, believe it or not, for about maybe 4.5 years. For the first 2 years, I'm not very good at it at all. Just stay very persistent. And for me, the ultimate thing that led me to actually get into sales was the desire to learn how to properly communicate. I wasn't necessarily after the money. Although I thought that the money would be a byproduct of me being able to be good with sales, or with my communication. So I was like, but that was not the purpose. So, and the purpose, in my experience, is the thing that it is the foundation that allows me to actually keep going when things do get a little difficult. It allows me to persist whenever I'm trying to accomplish, whenever I'm trying to figure it out, whenever I'm in the nitty-gritty of things and I'm having a hard time. Okay, how do I go about this? Should I continue doing this? All these ideas and thoughts that I could have from a previous experience. Maybe I had failed in the past, or whatever it is, right? Whatever nonsense that sometimes the mind can play games with us. And I just had to keep, the purpose very high on myself, that regardless of how bad I did on a call, I'm just going to go back to the purpose. Why? Because that matters more than whatever nonsense that is going on here. So that I just want to give you a little background on that I wasn't always as refined as I may sound right now, or as I may like to think of myself as being refined in my communication. There's always room for improvement. Right. But, just want to keep that very light as well, that, my goal is for you to see that as also number one as being a possibility for yourself. Right. My goal, let me see what Matt's saying here. You can feel free to turn on your camera. Okay, good. So that's a little background on me. Right. So, and then eventually once I was able to understand more about communication, more about sales, and more about people really, and myself as a spiritual being, right? Imagine me trying to be in a sales call with a person trying to help somebody. And I'm thinking, my attention is thinking, okay, how do I sound? What are they going to think about me? What if I do this? I'm not even present with the individual, right? So there's, obviously some work that I had to do on me as a being, in order for me to just be there with the person in order so I can help them, right? And a lot of that can actually be accomplished through education, like as far as me increasing my certainty on what I'm doing, on my ability in order to help such a person. And whenever I didn't have such a strong confidence or ability, I relied on the abilities, of somebody else that was around me. I'll give you an example, right? Perhaps if you're, a new person on this, right? and you know some things to be true, and you believe on the product, you believe on what the purpose is actually being done here with MintBuilder, which part of what I try to help and educate individuals is we're actually trying to get them to start thinking and operating like the wealthy, thinking and operating like banks, right? So they do not have to be so much the effect of the Federal Reserve Bank. So that's one of the very things that I try to educate individuals with. So part of it, so I'm gonna be just very, I don't necessarily have a format for how I'm gonna go about this. I'm just gonna try to give you a portion of a viewpoint of what the mindset it is required and having this strong purpose, right? Before I show up to the sales, I'm gonna give you some pointers on how I address the sales, and also some pointers on whenever I'm in the close, because there's a couple different cycles on this. I have me as an individual, I have the other person, right, that needs to be addressed. Once I'm after the sale, now I'm into the close, right? The close, now I'm actually going to be trying to collect some money from this individual, because now they are sold on the purpose of what's trying to be accomplished. So throughout this entire thing here, right, I need to have their very, it's a couple segments. Again, I've been studying like sales, right? Very adamant, being very diligent for the past 4.5 years, right? It was something that I basically submerged myself in order to improve my communication, because sales, it is ultimately the ability to communicate, get a person to agree on a viewpoint, right? And me being able to understand the other individual's viewpoint as well and help them through a mutual product, right? So let's say that I do a product that I know is going to be beneficial for this individual, and I use this as like to give a visual to the person, right? So let's say that I'm going to be, and Matt, I won this on last year's contest as well. Just, you probably recognize this.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So I use it to show it to people, right? Hey, this is like, so they actually have a visual on what that actually looks like, because the majority of people, believe it or not, have never seen it, like a physical piece of,
Nano,
yes.
you're gonna have many more pieces now from winning
I
your
know.
Gold this time.
Right? And I have a little bit of of the silver as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I like to use that as to give people a visual, right? So nevertheless, I gotta be, number one, sold on my purpose. What am I trying to accomplish? Okay, do I want to use this as a part-time? And just for me to get an idea here, Matt, some of the people here, like, what are some of the things that you guys would like for me to either address or bring it to make sure that it is covered throughout the call? What are some of the things that you like for me to address here?
Hi, Mike. See him on there.
Yeah, actually, I think for the most part, I'm asking if anyone has any questions based on sales and marketing, because that's always one of the biggest topics, is how do I first reach out to people? And then secondly, if I do, how do I, finalize the sale? How do I close the sale? That's the big thing.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So thank you for that, right? And there's a few parts to it, right? Number one, I'm going to be addressing the mechanics of it, which is the marketing and the selling, right?
Yeah.
The intention, it is always going to be higher or senior to the mechanics. Let me say that again. The intention of what needs to be done, it is higher to the mechanics of how it is done. So that's why I'm addressing that I need to actually address this right here first before I go into the mechanics. Because if I am sold on my purpose as far as what I'm doing, it will not derail me, or it would not derail me as easy if I'm not so sure on what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Because if I come across a problem or a situation or a failure, right, I can't tell you how many times I've failed, right, on a call, like, don't call me again, click, a person being rude or whatever, and on and on and on and on and on, like, and Jerry might say this, and I don't know if I've shared this story with you, Matt, like my first 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I would have I would go home for lunch, and like, as embarrassing as it may sound, like, I would cry. I'm like, dude, like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Like, oh my God, I can't do this, right? It was horrible. Like, and now, okay, good. Let me go back, pick the phone back up again. Why? Because I need to actually have accomplished this. It was so important to me. You know, like I need to learn how to do this, because if I quit right now, what am I like? Sure, I'll be able to survive, right? I'll be able to do, like, I'm not necessarily going to die. I'm not going to starve, but like, I need to have this accomplished. Like, again, it wasn't the money. Now, the money's great, right? It's like, are you going to say no to that? Absolutely not. And that's why I'm being very highlighting that, because again, intention will be senior to the mechanics. Once I have that in, now let me go trying to figure this out, right? So whenever I have this, okay, good. Number one, I want to go back and make sure that I address as far as borrowing somebody else's knowledge and credibility for the time being until I'm an expert. And the way that a new person can actually have this done is, okay, let's say that I do believe in it, but let's say I do understand, right? Okay, I may not fully get the entirety of what it is, but here are the basics, right? So, and this is what I show people as well. We have this, which is cash, right? And we take a look at, I use this book here quite often to go over with people as well on a few truths, right? As far as cycles that happen economically, just to show individuals actually happening with the economy, what has happened and the trend that it is. So education, right? One, I understand the purpose. Now I got to understand, okay, let's say I don't have the full knowledge, like to the level that I'm an expert. Let me go ahead and then emphasize, okay, what is actually true that I know that regardless of what's being said, of what has been explained, will not change no matter what. So the first thing, the point is, number one, does the Federal Reserve Bank exist? Okay, that's an undeniable fact. Okay, they do exist. Okay, great. We can agree on that. That's which is one of the first rules of selling, is a point of agreement, right? I have to agree with the person, right? If the individual, and now there comes a level of confront when it comes to this, okay? Because a person needs to confront. When I came across this information a couple of years ago, I didn't want to believe it. I'm like, that's not possible. You telling me now the government is doing this? That's not possible. No, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's not real. I went into full apathy for about 2 weeks. Like, why? Because I mean, that would have meant that I had been wrong my entire life about everything that I believe about money. So you have to understand that as well, right? Is that whenever you're dealing with a person, they have ideas about money they have been operating with up until now. So basics, Federal Reserve Bank, do they exist? We can agree they exist. Very good. Can we agree they are printing pieces of paper nonstop? That's also true. Kind of pretty hard to deny that fact. So that's actually happening. If they're printing pieces of paper, this is, happening nonstop. So the analogy that I like to bring to people is, right, okay, if they're printing this, right, this is no longer backed by gold, right, which I use this as an analogy, right, even though this is silver, so people can have a visual, so can have like reality on it, just the concept. Okay, at one point in time, that's when I kind of go back to the cycles on the book, which I'm going to cover here shortly, right? Okay, good. Undeniable facts. Federal Reserve Bank, and this is the true money, right? And then I go into the cycles on this. I did post this inside the Telegram group as well. The cycles of a transfer of wealth, right? And this is on this book right here. This is Gold and Silver, the guide to investing in gold and silver. Here we have the 7 steps of that pattern of a transfer of wealth. We have a sovereign state, That starts with good money. Good money being gold and silver. And I literally show them this. Good, that's the first step. And then I basically go with the person and I help them look at, right? Just let's take a look at history, right? Is that actually the case, right? A person, again, has to have a level of knowledge to confront. So it's not so much about just knowledge itself. The individual has to have like a level of confront for that to be true or not. The second thing here is, as far as the pattern on this, on the transfer of wealth, is as the sovereign states develop economically and socially, it begins to take on more and more economic burdens, adding a layer of public work and social programs. Good, then I get a person like to look, to observe for themselves. Is that actually true? If we simply take a look at history, has that actually happened, right? Number three, as they grow, their affluence grows, so does their political influence, and then increases expenditures to fund a massive military. That's step number three. Step number four is eventually they put the military to use and the expenditure explode. That's step number four. Step number five, to fund the war, they steal the wealth of its people by replacing money with currency that can be created in unlimited quantities. And I asked them, is that also true? Because the individual has to observe for themselves if these points are true. Now, it's out there, we just need to look. It is the equivalent of saying, is it raining outside? Well, I don't know. Well, look. Is it raining? I'm like, okay, like, and you literally, okay, sorry? Right? So it's like, then look, exactly. Right? So it's like, is it raining? And then you basically have to kindly, right? That's where the part of the sales come in, where you have to give the person the agreement to look at what's actually happening. This is like, I'm not coming up with this. This is the current scenario, which again takes a level of confront in order for me to observe this. Again, I'm going back to, I'm giving you some deep, at least from my perspective, right? Because it took me some time to realize this. Like me as a spiritual being, I'm going to basically, okay, I got to confront this thing. Is this real? Is this not real? And my own emotions that I went through whenever I came across this information, right? Some of you might be, more financially savvy, might be, may have come across this information for a longer, may have different reactions, right? I went into like, I don't want to believe this. This is not true. And eventually, like, okay, I can't deny this. Now, the question comes like, what am I going to do, right? So that's step number 5, which is in order to fund the war, is steals the wealth of the people by replacing real money, again, gold and silver, with currency that it is going to be created in unlimited quantities. And to give the example here, right? The wars, and then it happened in Athens, in Rome, as a perceived solution to the economic ravages of previous wars, right? And then finally, there's a wealth transfer caused by the expansion of the currency supply that is felt by the population, which comes across, right, as a price inflation, triggering a loss of faith in the currency. And the last step is there's an en masse movement out of the currency, right, back into precious metals and other tangible assets to take place. The currency collapses and massive wealth, it is transferred to those who had enough foresight to accumulate gold and silver early on. So whenever I go through those points with individuals, then now we're looking at what, okay, does this person has enough confront to kind of look, okay, is he actually raining? Not because I said it is raining, but because they look for themselves. Because it has been raining for the past 100 years, since 1913, to be more specific, right? Even longer when we taken into account Rome and Greece. Like, it actually has been raining for quite some time. The transfer of wealth cycle has just been, we just caught, catching up with us. And then I asked the individual, where do you think we are in this, I first of all ask them if it is true, right? Because it may be true for me. It may actually be true, right? Is it raining outside? Yes, it's raining. But if I haven't observed for myself, it may not be true for me that it's raining outside. So if I ask the person, I need to have them, right, to confront and agree that is actually raining, that is actually true. And that may not even mean they'll take action, because it might be too much to confront that everything that I have been taught up to this point, it is wrong. I know I experienced that. Some people might experience a little different, right? So that now I am giving you the explanation as far as what I do. When it comes, what I'm doing a demonstration with the individual, right? At this point, prior to me doing a demonstration with the individual, I send them information so they can actually see it and start getting reality on some of this stuff. I may send a picture, kind of like what I sent, in the group. Hey, take a look at this, take a look at that. And I just maintain my communication. Now here we go more into the mechanics. Right now I'm backtracking, right? I'm going from the close to the demonstration to the follow-up to the like reaching them, which I'm gonna get to that, right? So on the follow-up, ideally, I want to have what is called 5 to 12 touches with a person before a demonstration. So it increases my amount, my chances of closing the individual to 80%. I want to have 5 to 12 touches before I do a demonstration with a person, with a qualified individual, before I do a demonstration with them, in order to increase my chances of closing them. It doesn't even mean that I will close them. This is just sales statistics, right? But now if I'm going to be going into a game, I like to have the odds on my favor, right? So you think about this. Same information, same presentation. If I simply reach them 5 to 12 times prior to meeting with them, is statistically speaking, my chances of closing them will go up to 80%. So now I'm backtracking a little more. Whenever I come across a person that has a desire to either learn more about this or, and what have you, I put them on my calendar a few days later to give me enough time to do the 5 to 12 touches. I'm not going to meet with the person immediately, although I could have I could have a conversation with the person, but I'm not going to go into the full demonstration, because a full demonstration may take some time, and I got to be a little cautious of my time, because I may find myself with individuals that may not necessarily have be super serious about wanting to either learn more or improve whatever situation they're trying to handle it. Now, which backtrack again to get good. Now I'm going to be actually looking for individuals so I can actually put them on my calendar, right? So part of this is, okay, if I'm going to be doing either some marketing. I use social media a lot. I run a podcast on Mondays, as Matt was saying here, 4 p.m. So, people come through my lines, and I go over education, because again, what I'm trying to do is educate a person. Because imagine me asking the individual, hey, let's have you jump on get on a program or whatever. And this person has been operating with a piece of information for 25, 30, 35, 40, 50 years. I mean, chances are they're not going to move forward. You could be, maybe you're a better salesperson than I am, and you're able to accomplish that. But if I just simply, here's what I want you to have it in mind, right? So let's say this is the playing field of the game, right? Let's say this is the playing, oops, wrong book. Let me get the different book. So the playing field of the game, right? So let's say this is the playing field of the game. And let's say this is kind of like a picture. So whenever we have a picture, we can't really see the picture or the entirety of the picture if we're inside the frame. So what I want to do is, let's, for a moment, Let's step out of the picture, out of the frame, so we can take a look at a picture as a whole. So whenever I understand this, okay, if I understand a couple of some key components, I understand from a sales perspective that I need to have 5 to 12 touches in order to close the individual. Okay, good. I need to keep that in mind. I also understand the purpose that if a person has been operating with some piece of data through the entire life, they are going to need some time to process that information before they're actually ready to accept to take action, right? Let's say it has been raining outside for the past 40 years and I haven't looked, right? And it's like a flood is about to come in and I'm not looking, but I'm feeling like the stuff going outside, I could be in denial, right? So I have to understand that as a human being, we as human beings don't like being wrong. Being wrong, like it kind of goes a little against our ability to survive, right? So I got to understand that. So whenever I have that in mind, good, right? Again, from an outside perspective, okay, understand that. Now I'm going, part of my thing is like, okay, I'm going to be educating individuals. And then whenever a person does come in, now I've got to find a need. What is the purpose? What is this individual trying to accomplish? Again, I'm backtracking right from the sale to the demonstration, to the touches, to basically providing information, now to talking to a person. Usually what I do whenever, a few different ways, right? I try to do referrals and I try to do from the marketing, from books, right? That we have here, from a company, from my podcast that I do it as well. So I try to do through that in everyday conversation, right? But because in what I do, like I'm somewhat known, at least in the area here, right? People know me and I like to talk with people, just introduce myself and, just go about, hey, I'm constantly, trying to talk to individuals. So, but point being is whenever a person asks me, right? Again, so what do we know about this, right? We know, if we do, again, from the aerial view from the book, we know that most people, right, just from a perspective, it's like, I believe this statistical number is that 12% of Americans own gold, which means what? The other 80+ percentage do not, which also tells you that probably over 80% of the population are not fully tracking that's raining outside. So the chances are that whenever you talk to a person, you have to take that into account, that may not be fully aware of this raining. Now, if you do talk to a person that already buys gold, different, or even better, right? Saves you time, makes it easier. Nevertheless, right? I got to take that into account whenever I'm talking with a person. So again, different individuals will have different needs. Whenever I'm talking to a person, I got to find out what their need is. And then I'm going to be presenting a solution to whatever problem they're doing. And then I got to explain, hey, dude, it's raining. You need an umbrella. If they don't think it's raining, they're not going to go for the umbrella. Pretty straightforward, right? So it's like, okay, good. And then I again present the information, show it to them. It's like, okay, good. Let's take a look at what the Federal Reserve Bank is doing. What do they have? Where do they have their reserves? Again, and I have data, right, that I show it to them, right? Let me go ahead and pull it up here. Oops, page, I believe it's, give me 1 second. Okay, good. So I go through the data with them. It's called the central banks ranked by largest gold holdings, right? And then where it shows the different countries that have the different amounts of saved in gold, right? In the US, as of August 2020, they had 79% of their reserves in gold, 8,134 tons, which means 17,932.38 pounds of gold owned by the United States Federal Reserve Bank. It is the equivalent of saying, dude, it's raining cats and dogs outside. Take a look. Right? So I got to understand this. Right? So once okay, good. So again, I got to find a point of agreement. Now I'm going to the basics of selling. Right? Okay, I got to be in communication with the person. The person has to be willing to communicate with me. If I go into the cycle trying to make the person wrong because I know the information that I am like, hey, I know it's raining. And they say, no, it's not raining. I'm like, look, you dumbass, like it is raining. It's not going to get me anywhere, right? I have to be kind, right? And at least that's my approach to let them know, hey, let's take a look. You know what I mean? Because I can either be right or I can have a sale. Let's say that again. It can either be right or have a sale. I'm interested in having a sale. I'm interested, and the sale actually means a service. I'm actually helping this individual because I already know that I'm right. Not that I am right, is simply the fact that it is raining. The Federal Reserve banks, it is in existence. They are printing pieces of paper. Whether this individual has the high level of confront to view that it is raining or not, it does not change the fact that they're doing that. So I do not need to be right whenever I'm talking to them. Again, I got to ask myself, what is my purpose? What am I trying to accomplish on this? Again, my purpose is I want to be very, again, this is me on a personal level. I want to be very good in communication. I want to be able to help as many people as possible. And I just want to be able to take care of my family as a byproduct of that, right? So that is my purpose. So whenever I have that in mind, good. And by the way, this is strategies on what to do are very good, but so are mistakes to avoid. Because I'll put this in perspective, right? Sometimes a person, and I like to use analogy of fitness. I could give you all kinds of fitness strategies. We can do this and we can do that, but in a very simplistic manner. I'm like, hey, a few things to avoid: ice cream, fast food, right? Late night, if we simply avoid some of those, it will help tremendously. That would be what is considered a negative gain. I am avoiding getting deeper into the hole. So when it comes to sales, the mistakes to avoid is trying to be right, making the person wrong, right? And being antagonistic with them because they are in denial that it is raining outside. I don't need to prove to the person. I'm going to give you an even better example, or a more practical example from today. I was talking with a client, right? And then people have what's called the reactionary defense response. And then again, let's have you look at it for yourself as well, if that is true for you or not, right? Whenever we go into a store, whenever, we walk in, and then if we have a salesperson, hey, how you doing? Like, not looking for anything, don't want to buy anything, just a reaction. And I cannot take it personal, right? Let's say I went there, I want to buy something, I need the help, but what comes out is like, don't need anything, don't talk to me. Like, it's just a reaction, right? So it's like, and like, sometimes I do that. It's like, dude, what am I doing? It's like, so if the person's trying to help me, and I just have to understand that from a sales perspective, again, being outside of the frame of the picture, this will come up. If a person says that, what do? You agree with them. Totally. Hey, not a problem at all. I'm here if you need help. Now, going back to the practical example, this individual, I was helping him today on a different product. It wasn't precious metals or anything, he called me saying that he wanted to buy, right? Hey, we need, need help. This was on Friday. He's like, I need to talk to my wife. It's like, not a problem. He's already a client. I could have pushed. I was like, not a problem. Okay, good. So I was like, what do you think you want? You knowing your wife better than myself. By the way, this is, me practicing throughout the year, right? To know the response on what to say when the time it is needed it. Now here's another pointer in case you want to jot this down. Whenever a person suggests that it is a spouse objection or stall, it is their own objection. They are not voicing it out. Let me say it again. Whenever you have a like, hey, I need to talk to my wife for this or that, there is an unspoken objection that it is not being said. So what do you do first? Agree. Absolutely. Let's have you talk to the wife. You, knowing your wife better than myself, what do you think she's going to say? Whatever he says is his actual objection, because the wife or the husband hasn't seen anything yet. Let me say that again. Whatever the individual says, it is his objection. It is not the wife. The wife hasn't seen the information. So how can she object to something that she hasn't seen it? So no, she's gonna be, complaining, is it about the money? That's the thing for him. Now you have something that you can address, which I may address there or not, depending on how my day is, right? And again, I'm not necessarily so much in the business of convincing people to do anything. I'm in the business of servicing individuals and trying to solve a problem for them. And obviously, do I want to basically make a sale happen? Absolutely, right? But I'm not going to be convincing a person that it is raining outside whenever it's pouring, right? This also doesn't mean that I'm going to make them wrong. This also does not mean that I'm going to drop my responsibility in being responsible for making the sales cycle happen, right? But it also means that I know what I know to be true, which is the Federal Reserve Bank is printing money, right? And again, I'm not going to be antagonistic, mistakes to avoid, and I'm not going to make them wrong, right? I'm going to be educating, agree. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be servicing, educating this individual on the true data, right? So whenever I have this, so this individual, I was like, I made this individual totally right. And I say, hey, let's just say his name was John. Hey, John, totally fine. Now, let me ask you this. Is your wife on board with the service? He's like, yeah. She's totally on board. I'm like, great. So what's the holdup? No, we're dealing with this life thing here that we just need about a week to address it. I'm like, okay, perfect. I agree with him, right? So here's my thought process here, John. How about we get started with this service, right? He's like, no, I want to get started next Monday. I'm like, I agree. Let's do it, right? Like, here's the thought. How about we get started today, right? You go handle, like, I already got the agreement that he wants to do this. It makes sense. Again, a reactionary defense response. The guy already told me that he wanted to ask him, hey, is your wife on board? The wife is on board. He liked the product. The wife agreed, and he still gave me a reactionary defense response to not do it. Think about this, right? So it's like, and he's a client already. And I'm like, great, I agree, not a problem. John, so here's me, what I like to do and how to operate things. If things make sense to me, I like to, hey, if I'm going to be doing this, right? Is the problem the money? No, the problem's not the money. Is the problem the product? No, the problem's not the product. Are you going to, yeah, we're going to move forward next Monday. I'm like, great. If we're going to move forward next Monday versus today, it's not the money, it's not the product. And he's like, and he was like firm on like, I want to do it next Monday. I'm like, great. How about me? What I like to do, if I know I'm going to be doing something, what I like to do is I like to basically make a decision so it is a completed cycle of action, so I can actually go focus on something else. He did not move forward on the call. I agree with him. Hey, man, totally fine. Next Monday it is. I put him on my pipeline. Another thing here is I only experience rejection if I do not have enough people in my pipeline. I only experience a feeling of rejection that I experienced. It is an indicator that I do not have enough people in my pipeline. I'm not going to make the guy wrong. If I make the guy wrong, he'll definitely not call me back. I'm not going to be antagonistic, right? I hang up the phone. Less than an hour later, he calls me back. Hey, Neno, I got my wife here on the phone. Let's do this. Why? I didn't make the guy wrong, right? But at the same time, I also understand, like, there's to a point, right? Again, it's like I'm not a game, more like a dance, right? It's like this moving and for, like, I'm not gonna, I know what I have. I know that my product, again, I'm sold on my purpose. Again, I'm just giving you a practical example of as how it can be used, right? On this. And then I just going from the presentation, and then I got to find out what the person's trying to accomplish. I present it to them. I give a little bit of time in order for me to show it to them. I send little videos, or, YouTube clips that I have already saved on my phone, short articles, pictures, and then I follow up prior to the meeting. On the meeting itself, I like to do a Zoom call so the person has more points of reality with me. I like to show them this. I like to show them this as well. We have a communication by this time. I gotta know if this individual it is qualified, right? I ask questions, as far as what are they trying to accomplish, what is trying to be done. Some of the things, okay, why are they trying to do this, right? Because I also don't want to spend so much time with a person that will not, or it is not serious, right, to move forward, right? What is this person trying to do? And now going back to the borrowing the credibility, let's say that I'm not fully there, I can, in the meantime, funnel people to events that are happening. Hey, man, like, let's say that, because this right here, what you see today, did not come out to be overnight, right? There was like some work to be done. But what I can do, what I did until I got to this point, was I funneled people to the system that was already in place. And what system do we have here? We have MintBuilder with the trainings, right? With the with things that are being offered, with the marketing, right? You can just be funneling people there. Now, obviously, the more effective that I am in my communication, the more effective my results would be. But the point being is there is a train going through, and all I need to do is point people to the right direction, right? Again, the more effective that I am, to get them at least to show up and be there, some of this work will be cut off for you until I'm in a position to actually become good in sales, right? And that's a bit of a summary here, Matt, as far as some of the things that I do on a regular basis. And then just want to open up here to see if there's any questions, anything that you guys may want to.
Yeah, appreciate it. That's awesome. I love it. I love the real life explanation. I know you did share with us the struggles. You weren't just born shiny gold in sales. So I love the realness you have. Yeah. So the main last question, I think you pretty much answered a lot of stuff for people. There is Terrence wrote in here. He said, how many people a week do you talk to? And by the way, this is Nano's more part-time thing, and he's closing almost one sale every day with MintBuilder, and so again, this is more part-time. So I'm just they kind of want to know, like, how many people do you talk to in a given week?
Yeah, so it's I call about anywhere from on a given week's about 250 to 280 people overall. Okay. So about 40 to maybe 65, 70 people in a day, depending on what I got going on, right? Now, not everybody is going to be just on MintBuilder, kind of like what you said, right? Some people I'm just talking about different things, and then from time to time I funnel that in, right, the conversation on another, because what I'm trying to do as well, I'm trying to qualify a person because yes, it is very good for me to talk to a lot of people, but it's like the equivalent of saying, hey, I got to be talking to the right crowd, because if I'm talking to the right crowd, again, I'm trying to maximize my time. So whenever I do talk to a person, okay, like I'm in the right area, right? To basically talk to a person. If I'm talking to her, and there's 6 questions that I try to address whenever I'm talking with a person. Number 1, is this individual married or single, right? Number 2, the age of a person, right? Depending on how old they are, right? Between 25 and 45. This is, again, not a disqualification point. This is more for me to have an idea of the belief system that they have, right? Because a person who has, who's older, obviously going to have, a more track record on actually, following Wall Street and different things, right? Number three, it is what is the level of income, right? How much do they make as a household? Number four, do they have kids living at home? And number five, it is, do they have, how long they have lived in the area? And number six, do they own or rent? And I want to have it to number six, as close to number six as possible. It does not mean this is going to be disqualify any given person from me actually talking to them, but it does give me a parameter of, okay, because for example, an individual who is single, who doesn't have any kids, who is unstable moving, like, it's the chances of actually me closing a deal with that person, it is going to be lower compared to a person who, who's more responsible, maybe has family, and what have you, right? Again, does not disqualify the person, because if you were to talk to me, right, single, like I have been moving around quite, all over the place throughout the United States, like just all over, right? You wouldn't disqualify me, but it's more like the exception versus the rule. So I try to keep a measurement of those whenever I talk to a person, and try to get that right, to find out right in the beginning, to see, okay, good, where does this person fall in this category here that I have, like, that I'm tracking mentally, for me to see, okay, good, maybe this person now it's more like the qualified individual. So yeah, so that's what I kind of trying to keep track of it before I talk to them.
Okay. And I think I've seen a couple times now, people are wondering, like, do you get leads from social media? Do you purchase leads? Like, how do you keep your pipeline full?
Yeah, so I do referrals. I also, the company, because I do the podcast here, we get leads through the podcast that I promote. The company, right, that I work with as well, Wealth Dynamics, we also have leads that come in. A person has seen some level of content either from myself or from somebody else in the company, right? So to engage in a conversation. And so whenever they come in, they have shown some level of interest to finances. Doesn't even mean that it's going to be about precious metals, right? And then just this is going to be a person that's going to be a level of conversation, right? Hey, they have shown some interest in finances. Then I get in communication with this person to find out, again, what are they trying to accomplish? And through the education process, right, I'm going to show it to them. And I know that statistically speaking, 80% of people are unaware that it is raining outside. So I try to show it to them. Hey, take a look at this, right? And then again, if a person falls within those 6 categories, if they're responsible, it's the level of confront. If I have, done the 5 to 12 touches before demonstration, my chances of closing this person go way higher.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think Rebecca had private message too, and just asking about the differentiate between MintBuilder and precious metals. I think that one's more for me, Nano. So yeah, the precious metals site is a marketing funnel. So that's a good way to, like Nano was talking about, keeping your pipeline full. I think the funnel site is a good place to get more content being, dripped to somebody to make them a warmer lead. So that's probably the better place to to have your other sites lead the people to, probably.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I have this right, but Rebecca, just to clarify, Precious Metal Trends is a third-party site that we offer to our MintBuilder affiliates to use as a marketing funnel.
Right.
So you can actually send your prospects to that link. They can do the free gram of silver, the survey, things like that.
Yeah, just added benefits. So that kind of is one of the things. So I hear what you're saying, Nano, talking about the blogs and things like that. I think people getting into that, I feel like that trend has been going for a long time, and I see so much good coming from that. Not blogs, but podcasts rather, I'm sorry. And, people using those, just, hearing people and knowing what's going on. Education, you're talking about education, people want more of that. So I think those are great tools for getting leads, it sounds like.
Of course, yeah. So, and again, I got to be thinking with a person's operating system, right? Again, statistically speaking, people have literally deassociated these two. Like this is not even real to them.
True. Yeah.
Right. So it's like more like, hey, this is the natural way of things, not this. So it's like, if they don't have this level of knowledge, it is the equivalent of me putting 2 + 2 = 5. So they're literally operating with a level of knowledge that is giving them a wrong computation, but they don't know that. Right. And that's where I got to come in. Right. Hey, this is the cycle. Right. This is the real thing. This is a representation of the real thing. So, you know, with the, you know, education, promoting the articles and videos, which, you know, it doesn't even have to be mine. I don't even have to create the content. There's, you know, again, I like to use this guy right here, right? Mike Maloney. And I like to keep it very short and simple, right? People's attention span, or it's not, it's not very high, you know, just because there's a lot of, they're being, you know, you're not just competing with somebody else in your industry. You're competing with the hair thing, with the watch thing, with Starbucks. So, you know, they're like, you know, you're being competing with all of that, right? So just some key bullet points to grab their attention, right? Once I grab their attention, now I can actually be in communication. Once I'm in communication, then I can follow the sales cycle in order to be able to do a demonstration and presentation, etc.
Yep. Awesome. Love it. I've seen so many videos of people walking around in public offering a $5 bill or an ounce of silver. And every time almost they take the $5 bill, it's just education. And I think that's what you're talking about. It's raining outside. So you need to like help slowly people understand that it's raining outside first before you try to close the sale. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Totally, for sure. Okay,
awesome.
Good.
Well, I appreciate it.
Any additional questions here for me, or any additional viewpoints that you'd like for me to share with?
Yeah, if anyone else has anything, type it in real quick. I think just kind of summing it up, you know, you're talking about, Nano's talking about first working on your mind, you know, like yourself, like making yourself, you know, better. That's the first kind of big step you have on it. And then working on your intentions, your why. Why are you an affiliate? Why are you promoting precious metals? What's the purpose behind that? I think that's the second biggest point, as I was catching on to what you were saying. And then slowly like educating, you know, people on the precious metals and why it, you know, they need that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of you know, what I picked up, and then the rest kind of falls into place. So
Totally. And you're absolutely correct, because it's, think about this, right? And from time to time, I would get asked that question from a person like, hey, if a person is somewhat skeptical, what's in it for you? What are you doing? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so if I haven't looked, right, I may not, you know, I would like to believe that people are actually trying to do this. They're trying to improve. They have good intentions, right? But once I have clarity, if I don't have so much clarity on it, it may make myself a little shaky, right? I want to have they're very clear for myself. So I have like anchor points, right? So whenever that question is being asked, I'm able to just respond, right? And that puts me in a higher level of altitude with the individual, because I have an answer, right, for this. And perhaps again, this is the stable point. This is not. So statistically speaking, most people don't have this as a stable point. And if I do have that, I already know that for myself, which means that when I present that information, that individual may not be so sure as far as what they're saying anymore. In my job, they're like, let me, in a very kind manner, show it to them like it's raining, right? So
yeah, it's definitely about education. We're not selling something to people that they don't need.
no, exactly.
You know,
100%.
they just need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Nano, I really appreciate you being on here, and we'll get this out to everybody. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to be on here and spend this time with everybody. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. I know, you know, it's you know, I know that I was talking to Allison the other day, and then you know, my schedule is a little bit booked up, so I wanted to take the time here. and show my appreciation for you and for Allison as well, right? For everything that you guys do to kind of give everybody an opportunity to do this, right? I know that you guys put in a lot of hard work, long hours and whatnot, things that that I'm doing myself that may not necessarily always get seen, right? Or be taking the time to be acknowledged or appreciated, because it can be easily dismissed, right? It's not every day that you find a good place, that has a good system in place that gives me an opportunity to actually be able to improve and help other people through the course of it. So I wanted to do that as an appreciation for you guys as well, for what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Nano.
And when you have the passion, it does, then the hours don't matter anymore. So,
Sure.
so
Okay,
all right.
well, thank you so
you,
much, guys.
Nano.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.